Hi guys, and welcome to my review of two earphones. And the reason why I decided to do both of them at the same time is only because they both share a certain style of tune. One of them is the R2E3 Mermaid. I would like to understand why they call it mermaid when you look at the actual logo and it looks like a deer with antlers. But anyway, it is what it is. So one of them is the mermaid, which I'll show you now, the unboxing of it. And the other one, and I hope I don't mess up the name of this because this is complicated, Zhulinniao Qing Luan Z4. For the sake of me not saying a mouthful all the time, I'll refer to it as just Qing Luan, or then even simpler Z4. All right. Anyway, let's just get into this. Let's start. Let's start with the Z4. Actually, okay, the Z4. It is always impressive when you see a product, especially one that is priced at this value, which is around the $50 to $55 mark. Priced at this value, be so complete in its accessories and in its presentation, be so gratifying. Anyway, the box, the sleeve, which you open up. Okay, I'm just gonna pause this over here, and then you open it up like if it was a book. You open it up, all right, and you are greeted with this presentation. The case is this one, a little bit on the small side, fine for the original cable, but unusable with the cable that I'm currently using. The IMs came over there. These are the other set of nozzles that it brings. It brings ones which have a white rubber seal, and then ones with a red rubber seal, which are these ones, and then a nice selection of tips. These first ones are apparently a tip which has been developed by the company itself, and then the other ones are, as you can see, some narrow bores and some wide bores, more, let's say, traditional. The ones that were developed by them are kind of on the narrow bore path. All right. Now let me just get this whole thing of the tips out of the way. I did try the Z4 with the tips that it brings, and I just couldn't get it to fit in my ear properly. The only one that did fit in my ear properly was the wide bore, these ones here. But the tip is very soft, contrary to, you can see it's a very soft tip, which basically meant that I was having then trouble in having it maintain its structure and keeping the IM in my ear. And why is that a problem? Because the IM is heavy. All right, so that's the box. Really nice presentation. I have to give it to them, especially for the price. You cannot complain in any way. Okay, now why is that an issue? Well, it's an issue because the IM is really heavy. Okay, that, and also the fact that the stock cable, which is this one here, has very tight hooks in the part which actually gets introduced into the IM, and it's a very light cable. It's a nightmare to keep, or it was being a nightmare to keep the Z4 in my ears, and I ended up just taking it out after a while because I just couldn't handle it. Anyway, so that's the stock cable. I am using a Luna Shops cable with the Z4. Why the Luna Shops? Because this cable really performs really nicely. It's very much a cable on the same level in terms of performance as the Jazeer 41T cable, which can also be bought separately. Although this one's just slightly more expensive. The Jazeer is around $30. This one is about $45. And as I always say, cables are important as long as they match the driver. And honestly, I couldn't have been happier, not only with the tip selection but also with the cable selection. Okay, the cable was able to let the Z4 perform in a manner which is more along what I prefer or what I like. All right, and what is that? You can see, well, I've got here 4 IMs. I've got here the Mermaid as well, and then the two end ones are the Titaness and the TZK, the TKZK Oranos. Why these two? Very simple. Because listening to the Mermaid to the Z4 as it is right now, it reminds me of the Titaness, and the Mermaid reminds me or reminded me of the Oranos. All right, so that's why I have them here. This is, as I said in the beginning, not a comparison per se. I'm just going to be comparing them with these ones, and then the comparison that's going to be done with each other is a very relative, a very subjective comparison, because although they share a commonality in the way they've been tuned, one is more focused towards one type of people of sound, and the other one towards another type of people. So what I'm basically saying by this is that they are, to a certain extent, very genre and very niche orientated. Okay, let's get into the sound array of the Z4. They are using a high quality DLC driver. That is very apparent, because the extension that the driver has is unreal. I mean, it's really, really good. And DLC drivers are known for that. They are not known for being particularly bass monsters. That goes more towards the CNT drivers or even the LCP drivers. But in terms of mids, upper mids and treble, the extension of this driver is very, very good, and also the way that it's been tuned further potentiates that. Now the issue here with this type of tuning, or in this case with the Z4, is that there's so much energy in the mids and in the highs, and the bass is so just sufficient that it struggles to keep up. And I'm only mentioning it with one set of nozzles, which are the ones with the white rubber, because if it's the nozzle with the red rubber seal, then that's even worse. It's way too energetic. I listened to it for a couple of minutes and I had to take it off and then put the white rubber seal. This is the nozzle that, in my opinion, makes sense to have on the Z4. Okay, so Z4 white rubber seal, if you can, the KB 07 tips, and a nice copper cable like this one from Luna Shops. I think this is a very nice combination here. So as I was saying, the bass, it's very clean. It's a high quality bass without question. It is just a bass that is not available in large quantities. So this is no way an IEM that will be for those that, first of all, like large quantities of bass, or then are very kind of orientated towards bass heavy music, EDM, and a lot of electronic music, which does have a bit of a bass presence. Like I said, it is a very nice high quality bass, but it's a bass that will shine perhaps in things which are not too bass heavy. And a lot of the times, unfortunately, with you will feel that the bass is not sufficient to complement then the mids and the highs the way they are presented. However, having just said that, the reality is that with this particular setup here that I have with these tips and this cable, somehow I was able to mitigate that leanness of the bass, okay, and allow the Z4 to become a little bit more forgiving and accept more genres of music. I would say that the where this will shine is in instrumental stuff and in vocals. And in instrumental stuff and vocals, this is, I mean, top notch. You question even sometimes, is there only just a DD inside there, mids, as I was saying, and what I'm going to say now applies only to the white rubber seal nozzle. I'm not even going to talk about the red one. The pin again is very progressive, very relaxed, picks it close to 4K, but it's a very progressive kind of pin again. You could almost say that this is kind of a variation of a Harman tune, where everything is very lean in terms of the bass and the sub bass, and the mids and the upper mids and highs have been not relaxed, but they've been done tastefully, that's for sure, but they've been done in a more, let's say, mid-term energy level, as it is now. But because with the red rubber nozzle, it's just too much. So the mids, in my opinion, are fine. Male vocals and female vocals are very clean, very detailed, highly detailed actually. And were it not for that, sometimes some music requires just a little bit extra bass presence to fulfill the male vocals, especially. Were it not for that, I mean, the Z4, I would probably say, is would be almost faultless in its tune, especially when you consider the price, the build quality. I mean, this build quality, $50, and you're getting this nice shell. You can see attention was paid to detail. You know, it actually is well, perhaps in a future model. It's a pity if they could have maybe perhaps included some switch that would boost the bass by, let's say, 2-3 dBs. I think that would have been the cherry on the cake. You know, I mean, that would have been unbelievable. Technically, nice soundstage, good width, good height, depth is okay. Imaging it's fine. No issues with the imaging. Detail retrieval is fantastic. Fantastic detail retrieval. Texturing, layering, everything. I mean, in that aspect, you know, there's nothing to be desired extra. The Z4 has done its work perfectly. Why then do I have the Titan-S? Because the moment I started listening to it, once I reached this setup that I have here, the IM that immediately jumped to mind was the Titan-S. And when I actually went and graph it and check and compare the graphs, they're very, very similar. So the Z4 offers a lot of what you got in the Titan-S, which was a very detailed, very mid-century kind of sound. But you notice that the driver here somehow is of a better quality than the driver in the Duno, and it's of a better quality. Why? Firstly, because of the amount of extension there is up top, with everything being very clean, very detailed. And personally, with the white nozzles, white rubber nozzle, I never had any issues with it being overly energetic or up and up from Jeff Ryan. You know, it's got that sax which is insane, and I never had any issue. Honestly, it was fine. And if it started getting a little bit too much, which honestly never did within the volumes that I usually play, all I would have to do is just lower the volume a little bit. So in terms of the overall detail and you know I would say ability to technically shine, it is a better IM, or it is slightly superior. Let's be more fair, slightly superior to the Duno. I think that also happens because of the driver quality, being better than the driver of the Duno. Although the Duno does have a very good driver, mind you, it does have a very, very good driver. So anyway, by saying this, what am I saying? Well, if you liked the Titan-S, you can get the same mojo plus a little bit extra here and there in terms of the detail retrieval and so on, by maybe considering or pondering the Z4 as a future option. I mean, it is what it is. Onto the Mermaid. The Mermaid is also a new IM from a new company, R2E3, which is like kind of an unusual name. This is they bring it in. I got the 4.4 mil termination, as you can see. It's also got this kind of a book style opening system. You open it up. It's got this little kind of cover. Okay, the IMs came over there. It too also has the tuning nozzles. The tips about the same quality in terms of overall, as the tips on the Z4. Some are narrow bore, some are wide bore, but the issue here really with them is they are again a little bit too soft, and I was struggling to keep them inside. In terms of the filters, we have these ones which are, as you can see, all black. Oops. And they again confer a tuning to the Mermaid, which is in my opinion just way too energetic and kind of spoils the whole thing, the whole presentation. All right, let me just actually put this down. This is the case that it brings, just before I carry on. It's a nice size case, and this is the cable. Tangles a little bit easily, I must say, but you know what, it's not a bad cable, and considering it costs the same thing as the Z4, in this department at least, although it doesn't have as many tips to choose from, it offers a better cable and arguably a better case. But as I was saying, there's two exchangeable nozzle tips. That one that I showed you, the black one, and then there's this one which is silver. Okay, and this one, the silver one, is the one that I again think makes the most sense. I'll explain that now in a second. As for the IM, it's a full metal shell again. It's got like a flat faceplate with the logo of the company on there. It's got this vent here, which is part of a venting system that they have created, and that venting system allows for the reusal of the back waves or the pressure waves created by the drive inside of the shell to be vented out through the nozzle, and in that process basically it controls any harmonics that might be created, or softens as well a little bit the upper mid and treble reproduction, and yeah, and that's basically it. It's a technology that they've come up with. The fit is very nice. It actually fits quite nicely. Although it's got this kind of weird shapes and stuff, it fits beautifully. And I had no issues with it in any way. I'm using an XINHS cable with again the KB07 tips. And as I was saying in the beginning, it has a signature which is somewhat very similar to the Z4, although the mid bass has been slightly bumped to give a little bit more oomph, a little bit more body, but at the same time the mids, upper mids and treble are a little bit tamer, or a little bit more subdued as compared to the Z4. So ultimately what you're getting is, on the Z4 you get a very open, very detailed, very mid-centric, upper mids, trebles, loads of details and so on and so forth kind of sound. And over here you get the same type of tuning overall, but the sound is a warmer, more inviting sound. So this one will probably be a good one for treble heads, those that like details, you know. And this one will be a way of getting a similar tune to the Z4, but more relaxed in terms of the treble and the upper mids. But again, offering a little bit more extra warmth. If I was able to get on here the warmth that extra dBO2 that it has in the bass of the Mermaid, I mean, this would be honest, this would be unbelievable, because it is really good. As for the IMs, the Mermaid uses a beryllium coated driver apparently. Fit, I didn't have any issues with it. It was fine, no problem. The driver, again, you do notice that the driver is a very high quality driver. That's again something which is very apparent, and very quickly you notice it. And once more, when I started listening to it a little bit more carefully, trying to be then a little bit more critical, the first IM that jumped to mind was the TKZK Uranus. And lo and behold, when I actually went and compared the graphs are again very, very similar. The TKZK Uranus, for those of you that follow me, know that is an IM that I praise highly, and it's an IM that I recommend highly if what you like is a more kind of old school, organic type of sound. It's got plenty detail, mind you. There's no lack of detail here, but you know, you listen to this and you listen to, for example, the Titan, and the Titan is a more detailed, the Titan is more proficient technically. Which of the two is going to be more fun? The Uranus, definitely, because that extra bass that it has just confers a different tonality overall to everything. Over here you get that vibe, okay? You get very much that vibe. If you hear the sound is more clinical, more let's say, I'm not going to say lifeless because that's a strong word, but if the sound here is more clinical, more technically inclined, and with that issues, like the timbre and the tonality can sometimes suffer because they are a little bit too artificial. Didn't offend me in any way, to be truthful, but I sensed that it was being artificial at times. Over there we have the polar opposite. We have a very well built IM that has a great bass, okay, and has a mids and a high frequency which are warmer in their presentation, more lush, more engaging, more cozy. Okay, so probably of the two, the one that would be less fatiguing would be the Mermaid. And very much a situation happened as well with the KZK Uranus and the likes of, for example, the C3 or even the C2, which are brighter, more open sounding, but they will fatigue quicker. All right. although it's a relatively big shell, and because the cable is actually pretty decent cable, I never had any issues with regards to the fit of the Muse or it staying in place. That's something I just wanted to quickly mention. Mids and the highs, as I mentioned before, have this then warm tonality, this organic kind of feeling, and by consequence, to a certain extent, the technicalities are also technicalities which, I mean, there's no comparison between the two of them who's going to have more detailed retrieval. This one, but this one has very good detailed retrieval. Perhaps the detailed retrieval here is even more correct, more the real deal, as opposed to there being perhaps a little bit excessively colored. Okay. Soundstage smaller than there. This if I was to make an analogy, this is like a let's say a venue for 5, 6, 10,000 people, and this is like a jazz club kind of vibe going. All right, so it's difficult to compare when there's this big disparity. Imaging is fine. Detail retrieval, again, for the levels right here, is fine. Let's not forget once more that we are talking roughly $50. Okay, and so ultimately what this means is you like this type of signature, which is a little bit on the leaner side on the bass. You want something which is highly detailed, and in the case of the K4, it's not even a question of a little detailed. It's very, very detailed. Okay? That's the reality. There's no even questioning it. If that's the truth. Of the two, is there a winner, or will there be? I mean, it's like I said in the beginning of the review. The Z4 and the Mermaid are too different ultimately in their sound to be even put up in a manner which is fair or to one or the other. And the best way to just put it is exactly what I just mentioned a couple of minutes ago, is this is a sound for the more clinically inclined, for the more detaily, for the ones that are tech freaks, let's put it that way, and the one every single twinkle and sparkle and so on. And this one is one that will be more tailored towards the people that want to listen to music and enjoy that music with with fun, relaxed manner. That's the thing that's I think the best way I can actually summarize things. One clinical, one musical. Let's put it that way. Both of them very well built, both of them very well accessorized. They trade blows there. It's just a question of what ultimately you like in sound and what are you looking for in sound. And by having a TKZK or Ranos or having a Titan S, I think that will allow people to already have a general idea of what the sound of these two are, because they are very similar. There's a lot of DNA here that's being shared. All right. Anyway, guys, I'll show you now the graphs, and that's it. I hope you will, as usual, like and subscribe. All right. Hi guys, and welcome now to the graph section for the Mermaid and the the Z4. It's just easier. Okay, let's start with the Qing Luan first. Let me put both graphs that pertain to it with both nozzles being used. Okay, so that's the graph of the Z4 using the white nozzle rubber, or then using the red. As you can see, in terms of the overall balance, definitely the black line is the one that makes the most sense. I mean, 63 to 73 roughly. That's 10 dBs. But yes, mid-centric, upper mids, treble, loads of detail, as you can see, loads and loads of detail. Relatively lean bass, no bleed into the mids. I mean, this is really well executed bass. But for the amount of energy that it's offered here, this bass should be just a little bit more intense. Even if it was just below 100, it's just a little bit more body there. Okay, as with the red rubber nozzle seal, this doesn't for me. I really did not enjoy it. So all the listening and the review was done with this setup. And with this setup, that's the Titan S. So you can understand why I said that they sounded very similar. And here's the proof. The only reason why the Titan S ultimately sounds just maybe tonally a little bit more correct is because it doesn't have the upper mids and treble that the Qing Luan has, the Z4 has. But in you know, they are, look, the graph doesn't lie, and if you actually listen to one and the other, you will see that I'm also not lying or exaggerating. All right. Anyway, that's one out of the way, and now the next one is then the Mermaid, and I'm going to show you again both nozzles, this one and this one. Okay, again the same situation as you can see. Let me actually just change the color of all of them to something more visible. Okay, the one in red is using the black nozzle, and the one in the blue is the one using the silver nozzle. And once again, you know, it's just too energetic, and it doesn't, although yes, it does have a lot more bass that will help counteract. I just didn't enjoy listening to it with the it wasn't as offensive as the Z4, but I just didn't enjoy it because the other filter, the other nozzle, the silver one, just gave me an overall more satisfying sound, one that I was more pleased with. So again, I did the listening on this setting. Everything stays within 62 to 71 or 71ish, 9 dBs. Okay, you can see by the bass of the Z4, yes, there is a little bit of bleed here into the mids, which does affect ultimately your production a little bit, but at the same time it doesn't affect it in a bad way. It just gives it an extra warmth, which is it's actually nice. It's actually quite satisfying. There's a bit of a sub bass roll off, although you don't really notice it that much because, you know, it doesn't have a healthy amount of mid bass, and it compensates that, giving it a nice overall warmth. Just comparing both of them, the Z4 and the Mermaid, if I have normalized it at 500 Hertz, this is the result. If, however, I normalize it at 1 kilohertz, let me just normalize it there, 1 kilohertz. If I normalize it at 1 kilohertz, that's how it sounds, or that's how they stack up against each other. And I would pin towards more this being the true reality. Yes, of course, you do notice that the Z4 does have more extension, without a question, and the fact that the Mermaid also has this healthy dose of bass, you know, or mid bass, it doesn't help to let this whole up top area shine as much as it could, because as you can see, it's basically the same as on the Z4. On the other hand, the Z4 is, you know, comparatively to the Mermaid, lean in the bass. You know, okay, some of you might argue, okay, it's lean, but it's more audiophile correct, while the other one is bloated and it doesn't. Those are all valid points. I mean, we do have a gain on the bass here, so 62 to 60 to 70, so 8 dB of gain. So that is not going to be a type of gain that's going to be conducive with a more, let's say, audiophile reproduction, so on. Especially when it goes this far. If perhaps it was coming, you know, in rising it later on, like for example the case of this IM that I'm just going to show you here now a second. Okay, let me just align it at 1 kilohertz. As you can see, this IM here, when you actually listen to it, because it's been given that energy right at the end there where it matters the most, it overall has a very, very pleasant sound. You know, you don't feel that it's missing as much mid bass as you are missing to a certain extent on the Z4. Okay, and that's it, guys. Like I said, both of these IMs follow this style of tuning. Okay. Hold on, I was forgetting to show you the Oranos. Oh my god, where is my head? Oranos, there we go, number 13. So let me just take away this quickly and put here the Oranos. Okay, and again, as I said, the reason why the Oranos sounded familiar or rather the Mermaid sounds familiar, is because of this. Okay, a very similar rise of pin again, the way that it as well peaks and then drops off. There's a little bit more detail on the TKZK Uranus, but the same fullness of the bass, although not as bloated. Okay, they just sound very similar. Honestly, very similar. And trade blows on which song one does best or what song the other one will do best. Okay, so as I was saying. These are two IEMs which have an unusual or not so common, approach to their tuning. You could call them Harman, I guess, to a certain extent. Although I don't know if I would really think that would be the best description. And the reality is this: they are focused towards two different crowds of people. Do you want more lush, warm, cozy kind of sound? Then you go for the Mermaid. Do you want a more detailed, more clinical kind of sound? Then you go for the Z4. But either one of them, at the price that they have, they are, in my opinion, faultless, and you can't really go wrong. I think I've explained pretty well what they are about. But again, as I usually say, have a listen if you can before deciding. Anyway, guys, again, like and subscribe. Any questions, please feel free to ask. And I hope my review was one that brought some clarity to your decisions. Thank you. Take care.